Welcome to Chatting GPT, the podcast where I get to speak to interesting humans who are implementing AI. I'm your host, Maryrose Lyons of the AI Institute, and today I am delighted to be speaking to Stephen Klein. Stephen is a marketer turned educator turned AI specialist, but his endeavours have always had a very soulful edge. So he had startup success back in 2008, Stephen, was it? When you created the
Yes.
digital platform, yeah. And it was a digital platform that was about enabling people to buy shares at the same time as Wall Street. Pretty cool.
Mhm.
Sold it on, made a packet. Then he ran innovation and marketing for the largest law firm in the world. He looked after digital transformation in a company that operated in 45 countries. So imagine the amazing experiences he had there at doing things at scale. He teaches AI and marketing at Berkeley University to undergrads and grads. Am I right?
Yes, Mary
Yes.
Rose.
He does pro bono work with nonprofits in California through the Harvard alumni. He is genuinely, guys, one of the good guys. So when I reached out very audaciously and I asked him to come onto the show, he said yes, which immediately cued an entire feeling of like, I'm not worthy in me, and made me go deep on a
Oh,
very
wow.
enjoyable week of listening to every podcast he's been on, I think, reading all his LinkedIn posts, which are brilliant. You should go and check him out. So it was a really enjoyable rabbit hole. Stephen, thank you for joining me. Where in the world are you right now and what's on your mind this morning?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm grateful. I am in San Jose, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley. So
You
you could
bet.
throw a stone that direction and hit Apple, that direction and I can hit Meta, that direction I can hit Google, and a little further I can get Salesforce. So yeah,
Wow.
I'm in the middle of it all.
Wow. And I wonder, is it possible to actually get a restaurant booking now that everybody always gives the example of showing agents in action with getting them to
Mm,
book restaurants in like San Jose pretty much. Can you get a
yeah.
restaurant booking on your own without an AI?
Yeah, because the agentic AI are so busy talking with each other that you can just walk into a restaurant and there's going to be no one there. It's beautiful. It's absolutely perfect.
Long live humans, hey. So, what I would say is that whenever I'm at events or I'm listening to podcasts or I'm doing this kind of a thing, I really can't stand it when people come on and all they want to do is like big up their book or their thing. But I think in this case, I'm actually going to break that rule because what you're working on with Curiouser.ai is so interesting to me, and I think it solves a really unique problem that not enough people are talking about. So, with your permission, can we just go straight to talk about Curiouser.ai?
Yeah, absolutely. Curiouser.ai it was born out of philosophy that I would consider a hardcore capitalist philosophy. I'm a Harvard MBA, so I was trained at the Pentagon of capitalism.
Friedmanism, was
And
it?
yeah, exactly, exactly.
I was
And
taught that in college as well, and I really resent the fact that I actually came out of college thinking that that was actually a really, really good way of running the world. Changed my mind since.
well, but here's what's interesting. I think that we can actually leverage capitalism and do something very interesting, which is I believe we can operationalize ethics
Ooh.
and we can monetize values. And I believe that, in fact, given the direction that we're going in with generative AI and technology advancement, that will actually be, ironically, the only way to compete in the future.
Mm, mm,
I believe that in a world that I'll call post IP, because five companies have now essentially stolen 90% of all the IP in the world.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay, we watched it happen
yeah.
and it happened. So IP is basically gone.
Mm,
If you assume that regulation is naive at best, it's not going to catch up. It's decades
mm,
behind. And given the politics of our age, there's going to be no cooperation between Europe, the US, and China. So if we're living in a post IP world and we're living in a post regulatory world, And open source technology is going to win the day, which it's already winning. The only way to compete, the only thing that's left is meaning, ethics. And so I would argue that the traditional methods by which companies competed, Porter's five forces, competitive strategy,
Mm,
are gone. And
mm,
so I actually believe we're going to enter this wonderful age of ethics and meaning. And so Curiouser.ai is a generative AI company that essentially promotes and operationalizes augmentation. It literally elevates humanity so that we can think more clearly. Here's how that works. Right now, all of humanity is prompting an AI. We're all
yes.
trained.
We're training the models.
Yeah, and we're
Yeah.
trained like monkeys to train the
Mm,
model. So, in essence, we're
yeah.
kind of all the monkeys that have been trained by the industry to train the model. We've turned that around. And
Mm,
the way our AI works is that our AI actually prompts humanity. It's curious. It when it meets you, it asks you questions. It prompts you. It takes an interest in you. It gets to know you. It determines what matters to you. And through that conversation, it actually gets to know you. And so it's think Socrates and Plato. And so it's essentially the opposite of all the other AI out there in that it is not only getting to know you through conversation so you don't need to prompt it, but even more importantly, it's helping you think more deeply. It's helping you think more creatively. It's elevating your intelligence, not dumbing you down. It's the only
love
AI
that.
to make you smarter. So if we can sell this into organizations as an augmentation platform, these companies can actually elevate the thinking of the individuals and the organization, which is the opposite of what's going on now. So essentially, we are swimming upstream. We are dedicated to humanity, and we believe that we will win the day, as will a lot of other companies that I believe are doing similar things. I think the good guys are going to show up soon, Mary
I
Rose. I
really hope
honestly, I
so.
think, I think the grown-ups are on the way.
I really, really hope so because there's been a lot of childish behaviour we've seen in the past
A
several months
lot.
that make you kind of worry about the future of humanity. So, when you talk about actually what I'm really interested to think about there, as you were describing that, is that in the very near future you'll have companies using a mix of, say, the generative AI that we know for the doing of the tasks, and then they'll have a curiouser in on top for the making the humans more human, right? So will they work in tandem together?
Essentially, yes. Right now, generative AI is being implemented in an industrial age model. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
And can
So
I
what's
actually just
happening
mention,
is,
so is education.
well, so is education, and that's
Yes.
another big part of this problem. But
Mm,
within the corporate world, what's happening is that they're basically looking at the office as a factory.
yeah.
And they're looking at all of the humans as people within an assembly line. They're looking and measuring the tasks, and they're calculating where they can take people out, put a machine in,
Yeah.
but optimize efficiency, improve margin, and boost profit. So it is purely a task automation efficiency game right now. But that has a floor. There's only so much cost you can take out of a system. At that point, what's next? You're not growing your business. You cannot grow saving money. You cannot grow pinching pennies. At that point, these companies are going to be in trouble. And so they're going to have to all of a sudden realize, yikes, in order to differentiate ourselves, in order to compete more effectively, in order to provide more value to our customers, we have to do more creative things. We
Mm.
have to come up with new products. We have to come up with new features. In order to do that, they're going to need people.
And we have to do brand new
And
things
we have to
because
help those
humans can
people.
create brand new. Yeah.
That's all. The machines can't do that. The machines aren't creative. The machines don't
Mm.
have imagination. I mean, it's literally a tool does not make a monkey. You can't give a monkey a typewriter and expect that monkey to be Shakespeare. It doesn't work that way. You need to train that individual, teach them to write, make them creative, and then magical things happen. So, yes, there will be a combination of task automation because businesses will always have to run efficiently. But what will be more important is what will be this sort of I like to call it that we're going to operationalize ethics, operationalize
Mm.
values, but there will be this augmentation layer that will literally elevate that organization so it can compete more effectively. And that is the only way these companies are going to win. And we're starting to see that now slowly
I
emerge.
I think that's brilliant. It's hopeful, but I sort of see like maybe two types of companies. But there's probably several more. But like what I'm seeing is that you have the companies that are operating in the way you described, where it's all about maximizing efficiency. Take this out, like it's kind of seeing it like a kind of a sequence of inputs that you can just manipulate. And they're the ones that are like the Klarnas of this world who are coming in saying like we saved on 700, took 700 staff away, and now they neglected to say how many millions they spent on the actual AI and training it. But they're the ones who are about like kind of cutting jobs. But then you have another type, and these are the ones that I'm really happy to say that we tend to work with, who are the ones that are like, let's do more with the same. So we have a really cool team of people that we have invested
Mm.
in their training, and we've invested in our culture. And what we want to do is take away the drossy tasks from them and elevate them and free them up to do the higher value stuff instead. And the way Curiouser really struck a light for me was that we're all about helping people do the whole, okay, remove the drossy stuff, bring AI into certain workflows to improve things. But then I had always left it as, but the critical thinking, who's going to teach us the critical thinking? And what about sort of some sort of an app that will help us on the human bit? And that's where I think Curiouser has a really cool
That
role,
is,
because it's like the finishing school of these companies that have invested in this way.
yeah, I mean, it's essentially a highly educated strategic coach
Yes.
that can work with individuals within an organization and elevate their game so that the entire company is becoming more effective and can provide more value and can grow. It's the opposite, but all of the companies are going to end up being the kind of company you want to see, Maryrose. I'm going to tell you why.
Good.
That first category of company that's automating tasks and focused 100% on efficiency, uh, they're making a very serious mistake. Because here's what's really happening. First of all, it's a layoff with a paint job.
It's a
Okay?
layoff with a paid
It's a
job.
layoff with a, basically they're cutting people just
Yes.
like they always did. And they're using generative AI as sort of the
As an
strategic
excuse.
smokescreen to make themselves look smart.
Right,
So
yeah.
first of all, that's sort of a PR game that's going to catch up with them. Even when they are implementing the generative AI, what they're not realizing is that these models are extremely unreliable. In fact, the more sophisticated the model, the more unreliable. These models that they're implementing are error prone 30 to 70% of the time.
30
And
to
the
70? I thought the
yes,
hallucination rate had gone down a lot more than that.
no, it's actually going up. In
Really?
fact, OpenAI recently had to revise its terms and liability because it is realizing that as these models get more complex, the hallucination rates go up. There is no structural way in which they can address these issues right now because it's based on the complexity of the neural net. And as they get more, so what's happening is not only are they cutting people and they're doing it in a way that's not going to be a long-term benefit to them. They're implementing technology that is going to have huge quality issues. They're now, and there's data to support this, Mirrose, they're now bringing people back to manage the AI they replace people with. It's going to be ridiculous. So you're going to see this boomerang effect where the companies that moved the fastest and implemented the AI are going to have to bring people back to babysit the AI because the AI can't be trusted.
But then, can I not just argue the point there and say, though,
Yeah.
that, we talk about how, you know, there will be well, we don't talk often enough about it. There will be job losses.
Hmm.
But then we also talk about how there will be new roles created. So, for example, I always kind of speak to the fact that, 25 years ago, all of these kind of digital marketing, web developer, SEO expert, all of these kind of roles didn't exist. So, in the same way, new roles would be created. So, what you're describing as the kind of the person who's come in to manage the AIs, isn't that just one of those kind of new roles? It's like the kind of the controller of the
Not
GPTs,
yet.
controller of the agents.
Not yet. I think it's more of an old school QC, quality control role. It's
Mm-hmm.
sort of when you, in the industrial age, when you automated a factory and your tooling was very ineffective and you had volatility on quality, you had somebody at the end of the line decide which car was the good one,
Yeah,
and you
yeah, yeah.
called it yield rate, right? I think it's more of an old school yield rate analysis management issue. What will happen is new roles will emerge.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. When the
Do you have
automobile
any of
was
any
invented,
idea what they might be at this point?
no, and no one does. And here's the magical
Mm-hmm.
thing, Mary Rose, because this is where history really is incredible. If you look at disruptive technologies, let's look at the automobile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when it was first introduced, people saw it as a land yacht. It was a boat with a rudder that rolled over the hill and dale so that you could have picnics with your family, right? Um,
Wearing a corset if you were a woman,
or it was a horse,
sitting sideways.
it was a motorized horse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No one envisioned infrastructure. No one envisioned the steel industry. No one envisioned highways and roads and gas stations.
Mm.
That magically appeared. Another example, television. When television came on the scene, it took 12 years for people to realize that it could be more than a camera on two people talking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
And so people thought, well, we're going to, so the creation of new paradigms and new worlds that is so magical materializes, but it's not something we're actually capable of envisioning. What we do envision is the lost side, which is why it's always so terrifying.
Mm,
The
mm,
internet was another perfect example. Internet 1.0 before the crash
mm-hmm.
uh, was a brochure.
Yeah.
That's all it was. Nobody envisioned commerce, or no one envisioned until it crashed and 2.0 emerged, 2002.
Mm.
So I think that we're not there yet. Um, and we're still at that sort of baby stage, but it's being exaggerated and it's being hyped because basically hype is selling. What we're seeing is hype as a service. I call it HOS.
Hype, hype as a
It's
service.
hype as a service right now. SaaS has been replaced with HOS, and the
Wow,
only people making the money right now are the consultants.
wow.
That's it.
Yeah.
$100 million is the industry, and the management consultants are making almost all of that. The generative AI companies are losing billions.
Mm-hmm.
There's no evidence that any clients are actually achieving productivity increases. There's no evidence whatsoever. None. Let's challenge me.
I think that there is. I think that there is.
Okay.
So, for
Okay.
example, in the work that we do
Okay.
see 20% on average productivity enhancement, and it's not to lay them off. It's actually people are getting to do more things that they never got to do before. And that brings on a qualitative change of people feel happier because they're feeling that they're getting everything done.
You are absolutely correct. Yeah, and I should be more careful. What I'm saying is there's no productivity in terms of being able to replace people and create efficiencies and make money because of that, right? You can elevate people and you can make people more productive, but that's not going to show up on your bottom line. Okay, that's not going to be an immediate ROI. In other words, your CFO is going to see an investment in technology
Mm-hmm.
and then over time, an increase in productivity. What business is trying to do now is replace your people, put the machine in, see an immediate savings, an increase in profitability, but then they're going to see a decline in productivity. You're doing it the right way, but that is not how the corporate world is looking at it right now.
It's not how everyone is doing it right now. That's true.
No.
That's true. Can I ask you another burning question, which I really hope you have the answer to? And I think you might, given the fact that you lecture undergrads. One of my biggest fears is about the loss of graduate entry level jobs, and the
Me too.
whole, when you talk about, say, like the consultants making loads of money, one of the things I'm thinking about is about they're not hiring as many graduates to come and work for them because they're all using AI, and then put that across every industry. So you've got all these brilliant, bright young people that you get to stand up in front of every day or every week. What are your fears, or what are your hopes for them?
Oh, wow.
Do they know what's coming? That's a three-parter question. Take a moment to answer.
No. I actually have prepared for that because I am engaged in that. So I wake up every night worried about the next generation.
Yes, me too.
And part of what I'm trying to figure out is how can we use generative AI to solve that problem?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I think I have a solution.
Is it called Curiouser?
It's called Curiouser.ai, but it's also there's going to be a lot of companies that are going to join. Okay, and here's the solution.
Yeah.
There are now 31 million entrepreneurs in the United States of America. 20% of all Americans plan on starting a new company in the next 1 to 2 years. Entrepreneurship and startups drive 62.7% of all new job creation.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yet 90% of these companies fail.
Yeah.
So the 10% that succeed generate almost 3/4 of all the jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for every 1 point we can increase that 10%, we can actually create 150 to 200,000 jobs.
Wow.
So the question is, how does one improve the probability of an entrepreneur or startup succeeding? Here's how you do it. They can't afford consultants, and they can't afford expensive expertise and experience. So they're over their head. They don't have the knowledge, they don't have expertise. We can take our AI, literally educate it to be Steve Jobs. And we could provide every single one of these companies with a Steve Jobs generative AI as a CMO, as an advisor, as a founder, that they could then partner with for $20 a month.
Yeah.
And I believe we can have a direct impact on improving the probability of entrepreneurial success. If that's in fact true, we are going to create an entire renaissance of new job creation at a very low. And I think that is probably the key leverage point, Maryrose. That would be the technology is here right now. We can do that right now. There's no technology barrier to achieving that goal right now. None.
2 points. I really want to believe you because I am a set like before I got locked out of Twitter and refused to go back in. I had myself down as I am a utopian. Okay, so that I want to believe you. But 2 points. One, okay, not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur. Not every kid has the idea or the gumption or the grit to stick at something and make it happen. And the second point is that when you were saying about they can't afford marketing consultants, they can't afford, a lot of them can't even afford to pay their rent. So it tends to be the kids of more affluent families that can kind of like live on mom and dad's couch for 9 months while they're working on their first startup. A lot of kids don't have that option, and they need to work, they need money. So what would you speak to that?
I would say that the old model of the corporate world creating jobs, I think that's over. I don't think we're going to fix that. If you look at the data, since 1980, all corporate S&P 500 profit has been a combination of layoffs and stock buybacks.
Right.
They're not creating jobs. They're not investing.
No. They are
In a
creating
way,
profit.
it's an extraction. Okay.
Mm, mm,
So if you assume that that is not currently an option, the you don't need everyone to be an entrepreneur, Maryrose.
mm.
You need enough of them to succeed that they'll be hiring people. That's how all of these corporations started in the first place. So what we need is a renaissance. We need an emergence of creativity and innovation. And there
Mm.
is a lot of that in humanity. I UC Berkeley is the third best engineering school in the world.
Wow.
And I would say at least half to three quarters of my students want to start companies. And
Great.
my generative AI will help them.
Great.
And if they're successful, they're going to need to hire people. And
Mm,
they're going to hire Gen Z and young people. So that's the seed, that's the spark that creates this emergence, this enlightenment. And I believe that is a practical, viable solution to the problem that it at least is within reach.
well, I really hope that that is the case. And I'd be putting my money on that side of it because I think in the end, humans always come true for each other. Like
Mm-hmm.
we do.
I believe in humanity.
I do believe in humanity as well. Although at the moment, when I see some of the things that are going on in this world and even on my continent in Europe, for example, it's hard to believe that that still is there. But I was reading a post on LinkedIn just the other day, and they were talking about this kind of like more like dystopian future of what happens when people don't have any meaning, what happens when you have all of these kind of educated people who are coming out into the workforce and there's no jobs for them to go to. They're waiting for those new jobs, let's say, that you're talking about be created. And that's the kind of the seeds of revolution, and that's the seeds of violence and bloodshed.
If if that dystopian future is realistic, yes. But I don't believe it, Mary Rose. I honestly don't. I think
Okay.
that is how every significant technology disruption looks like from this perspective looking forward. They always look bleak. They always look bleak. It's always like,
The
well,
web
what will
didn't
the
look bleak though. When the
well the
web first
stage
came, it was
yes it
exciting. There was
did.
nothing
No,
bleak about
no,
it.
no, 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 it wasn't. No, it wasn't. All the retail was going to go out of business.
Oh yes, yeah.
Everybody, no, no, everyone was going to get disintermediated. There was going to be a bloodbath. Then there was a crash, and the economy crashed, and the world was over. Mary Rose,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mary
So you know
Rose.
what the difference is, Stephen? Back when the web started, I was younger and I just thought it was
Well, and
amazing. So
I'm
I only
old.
saw the
I'm an
good.
old man, and I'm telling you, I have seen this technology since the mainframe, since the
Wow.
mainframe, and then distributed data processing, and then client server. I've seen it, and
Yeah.
in other words, what we're seeing now is, oh my God, what will the stagecoach drivers do when there are cars?
Right. Yeah.
There will be no stagecoaches. There will be no stagecoach drivers. The world is going to end. Uh, how will the mail go from point A to point B? Well, the Pony Express is over. And that is what it always looks like. And if you study history, you'll see that. And can I make one more point?
Yes. I'm really enjoying all of your points. I'll be definitely mulling these over this evening and probably
Thank you,
talking
Mary
about
Rose.
them to somebody else.
As a student of marketing, um, there is something happening right now that we need to be aware of. And it was invented by the sugar industry in the 1950s. And the sugar industry was under threat because it was determined it was very unhealthy. So what they did is they invented a playbook where they decided they'd blame it on fat,
Uh huh.
they'd spend billions of dollars, and they would hire very credible research people and institutions in the medical group to basically promote the data that was used to sell the sugar. Tobacco fine-tuned that playbook. The tobacco industry used the same playbook to concoct a whole series of fake research data that propped up an industry to basically sell tobacco. Pharma did the same thing. Generative AI is now doing the same thing. 90% of the data that is being promoted right now in the generative AI space is paid for by the industry secretly. And the reason why it works is because Ivy League universities, very well-known professors, are behind it because they're making a lot of money. Okay? And so if you actually look at the independent peer review research, you're going to see a different, brighter future than if you look at the fear-mongering research that's being driven by the industry to drive the cash flow.
So you're saying, Stephen, that they're basically that the industry is producing fear-mongering dystopian view research
to sell fear so that all of the companies overreact, bring in the consultants, lay people off because they're all afraid they're going to get left behind. Yes, that is exactly what is happening. That is what's happening now. That is what's happening. And
but fear sells, because like one of the things that really bugs me
fear sells.
Turn on Netflix, turn on Amazon Prime. Every show is set in this like dystopian future. Every single show, there's like, it's grim.
Black Mirror.
There's no happy shows. Yeah, but Black Mirror, I kind of love Black Mirror. Kind of,
I even have trouble watching that sometimes. It's a little too close to home. Yeah, very edgy.
It's very edgy. No, but I mean though, like, you know, a lot of all those other series, it's just always this very dystopian future. Like, you know, I don't think there's any money in happy stories anymore.
Well, if step one was create fear,
no,
companies overreact.
Go back a step. Step one was rob us of all the data. That's exactly what social media companies did in Web 2.
Well,
so
yes, they trained.
Steal the data.
Yes.
2 is, what's step 2?
Scare CEOs in large companies that they're going to lose their jobs if they don't implement AI right away. So they immediately bring in a consultant. Let me tell you, here's another data point. Ready? About all the money. So what's interesting is the average major management consulting engagement in an enterprise is $3 to $5 million right now. So the management consultant basically makes $3 to $5 million. What the company actually gets for that $3 to $5 million is a 70-page slide deck, one pilot that is successful to statistically 30% of the time, and a press release to say that they're AI first.
Yeah.
That's all that's happening, and then they lay people off. So that's where we're at right now. That is the state of the art. Now, what's going to happen is these companies are going to realize that they were, in a sense, sold down the river. And they're going to have to react. They're going to have to hire people back, and they're going to have to figure out how to take that technology and make it work. And that will be the next wave. And unfortunately, that's not dystopic. That's good news. I'm sorry to bring good news to the world, but it's actually going to be a bright, optimistic future. It's going to be.
I'm going to hold that thought. What is that third stage called? We've got steal. Now you're an ex-ad man of old as well, I know. So we've got steal. We've got scare. What's the happy future called?
I think we're going to enter an age of meaning. I think when you've automated everything that can be measured, all that's left is humanity. It's our meaning, it's trust. I think that the only way a company will succeed is by generating shared values and trust with the employees and the customers. That will actually be the competitive edge. So age of trust, age of meaning. I think we'll see ethics operationalized. It will come out of the academic world. It will come into I think Machiavelli will run for the hills. And I think things are going to turn around. I really do. And the technology is here today to deliver that. And it's just a matter of time.
That's a beautiful thought to end with. Can I just ask you one last thing? What time frame do you put on that?
I think it's going to happen in 6 months to a year.
Wow.
I think we're going to see, first of all, Maryrose, we're going to see a crash.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to see a bubble crash.
Summer 2025. That's what my money's on.
I don't know exactly when, but there's going to be a dot-com like crash. There has to be. It's inevitable. If you look at the actual data, you cannot continue to lose the kinds of money these companies are losing, and there's no path to profitability without a crash. So I think it's going to be 6 months to a year, but I believe that companies will already adopt. I'm getting calls right now from a lot of businesses that are realizing they made a mistake. 80% of the Fortune 500 CEOs realize they've made a mistake. 60 to 70% feel their jobs are at risk.
80% of the Fortune 500 CEOs who have actually invested heavily in AI realize.
Which
Not
is
all
now
of them have.
not all of them have, but the early adopters are the ones that are in the most trouble because you're the crash test dummies. They were the ones who got tricked. If you're moving more slowly, you'll be fine because you'll see the mistakes the other people made. Okay?
Well, I really, really hope that your utopian happy vision comes true. I wholeheartedly want that
We're
to be
going to
the case.
see a growth cycle.
A growth
It's
cycle
up and
starting
down,
in
up
about
and
6 to
down.
12 months.
I
Love
believe
it.
so.
And in the meantime, back to Curiouser. Can I just ask you, what's the pricing model on that?
We currently are, because we don't have, we're bootstrapped. I've not accepted money from the industry, even though I've had opportunity to, because I want to continue down our path. And
Yeah.
now I have control. So what we've done is we've basically generated with no budget at all.
Wow.
We have thousands and thousands of people on a wait list. This message is resonating. Okay, so we have thousands of people on a wait list. We're converting a $5 2-week trial as an app. Okay, so we're taking the wait list, which is about 5,000 people now. We're converting 30 to 40% to a $5 trial, which is unheard of in the industry. And then we're basically offering the subscription for $25, which enables us to make a little bit of money. We can't give it away. We don't have the
Of
billions
course
of
not.
dollars.
Yeah.
So that's the current model. But then what we're going to do is we're going to build this. We've got this platform that we're going to offer businesses and corporations. That's going to be an agnostic, multi-LLM platform, open source, that will give them the
Like a wrapper.
flexibility
Yeah.
that will sit on top of multiple LLMs. You don't need one foundational model. Our AI sits on top of 5 large language models. It mitigates error, and it's a best of both worlds, and it creates flexibility, and it future proofs you against industry volatility. So this will be a platform that companies will buy. We won't be the only ones. I think Apple's going to move into this business. I think Anthropic will. Mira Murati, who was the
She's
CTO at
amazing.
I think Mira Murati, who's my hero, I think she's going down this
Yeah.
path. Safe Intelligence is going to. So we're not alone. This is a trend,
Yeah.
and it's augmentation. It's going to be a good news. I think the bad guys have pretty much played the script out. I think they're at the end of the fear mongering.
Well, on that note, I'm going to say thank you so much, Stephen. I am so excited to get to the top of that list of 1,000 couple of people to get onto Curiouser.ai. I would love to have you back in about 12 months' time, and you can come back and say, I told you so. Remember I said this happened?
I
Then we
won't
can
say
all look
that.
to you. No, but not in a smug way. But
I
I mean,
would
we can all
love to
look for
say.
advice as to the next 12 months, what's going to happen, and what can we do to prepare for it.
Yeah, the goal is to create jobs. The goal is to create value. The goal is to create a better
Meaning.
a better world for the next generation. That is really the only reason I think any of us should go to work. And if we have another reason to go to work, I think we really need to question our values.
Absolutely.
It's that simple.
It is. Stephen, thank you so much for coming on to Chatting GPT.
My pleasure.
This has
Thank
been
you.
amazing. We'll put a whole
I'm
pile of
grateful for
links.
you.
Oh no, no! I'm happy that you're able to come on. We'll put a whole pile of links in that you can read up on some of the ideas and concepts that Stephen is talking about. We'll be back next time with another really interesting guest who is implementing AI and doing it with humanity. Stephen Klein, thank you so much for being on the show.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Maryrose.